Cool. So I think we should be recording. So hi everyone, I'm Hannah and I'm the Sustainability Project Manager for the Lancaster West Neighbourhood Team. So this meeting is with Social Landscape. So we're going to be talking about the design details for the gardens and outside spaces for Treadgold House. So this is going to be feeding into the overall refurbishment of Treadgold. And is really an opportunity for us to get any ideas and thoughts on what that should look like. So this meeting is being recorded, so anyone who can't make it this evening will be able to watch it back like on the app. So yeah, I've already said the kind of housekeeping stuff, so if everyone can just stay on mute if you're not talking, just the recording's all okay, but yeah, feel free to jump in with any questions. So I'll just do a quick introduction to the Lanquest team. So today we've got myself here and then also Alfie, who's the project support officer for the refurb team. So yeah, anything to do with the refurb, Alfie is the man to go to. And then I'll hand over to Social Landscapes team to introduce themselves.
Good, thank you, Hannah, and welcome everyone. So my name is Mich, I'm from Social Landscapes, and with us today is also Tish, and both of us have been doing the webinars with you, the residents. This is the third webinar in a series that's funded by Innovate UK. And the idea of these webinars is to get input from residents into what you would like to see the green spaces and your balconies to look like and to be used for around Treadgold House. So I'm gonna give you a brief agenda for the webinar today. First, I'll say a little bit more about Social Landscapes for those that are new. I'm not sure there's anyone new. I think there might be, so I'll do that. And then I'm going to share learnings from previous meetings. So if you've missed the previous meeting, then that's a good way to hear what's been discussed. And then thirdly, the bulk of this webinar today will be introducing the ideas that have come out of the first two webinars for each of the three garden spaces. So we've divided it up into the north garden, the south facing garden, and the west garden. I just want to add to that these, of course, these ideas are not final, even though it's called design details, but the idea is really that we get input from you on those design details of what you like, what you don't like, you know, and then we can build on that and develop the designs further. And we're going to pass those designs on to the architects, and they're going to be fed into, hopefully, into the refurbishment project. And then we can also look at what's next. Good. So very briefly, what Social Landscapes is, as our name suggests, we bring people and the landscape together. So we bring people into the green spaces that surround them and support them to reimagine and redesign those spaces so that they are more useful to the community. In doing that, we aim always to build community and also to support wildlife and the health, I guess, of the ecology of the natural world around us. Yeah, so very often we work on housing estates, and we get in like yours, and we get invited to help residents make designs, and then often there's just funding for that stage, the designing stage, and then we use those designs to raise more, or the housing estates uses those designs to raise more money for the implementation of the designs. Good. So just to go over some of the learnings from the first and the second workshop. So this is the first workshop, which was called Gathering Ideas. So that was really just having a bit of a conversation about what's working for you in the gardens and what's not working. And some of the things that we've heard is that there is too much shade, especially in the main garden, but in all of them. So that it's hard to enjoy the, there's not much sun basically, so it's often not comfortable and warm enough to sit out on the benches, and there's also not a lot of play area for the children, so that limits families in using those spaces. About the balconies, you said that there's a problem with pigeons. Some people also mentioned there's a problem with squirrels. The large trees are sort of a road into people's balconies and houses for squirrels. So that's something we've looked at and you're going to hear about soon. So you said the children often play in the car park. It'd be great to have a more like a playscape or a playground for them, a safe place to play in the gardens. We talked about some ideas of what some of the car parking spaces could be converted into, like an outdoor gym or greenhouse. There's sort of mixed feelings about some of those, and we're going to present one suggestion in this meeting. And a couple of other things. The planters aren't very well used, partly because the gardens by Bournemore Road, and I think it's Grenfell Road, feel a bit private because you're kind of right in front of people's kitchens or living rooms. So they're not very well visited by other residents. Then we had a second workshop, and we used some of those ideas from the first workshop to come up with a bit more of a concept of what we believe you want to see happen here from your input, from your feedback that we got. So one of the things we really wanted to focus on was to make the gardens more welcoming to residents, and that really means opening them up more, have more sunny seating areas and play areas, bring in some color possibly. A second thing was to make them more accessible, so changing the way we move through the space. There was a concern about the ground not being level, so elderly people might not be able to use it as well, so maybe bringing in paths or leveling the ground, having different entrance to the garden by the planters, so that you don't need to walk past other people's back doors. So taking away boundaries and opening the space up to more people. And then finally, making the garden more functional, sort of the way we like to see it is making it an extension of your home, so that really feels like that's your garden. There's things that you want to be doing in those gardens, whether that is growing some plants to bring to your balconies, using the planters for some herbs or flowers, or whether that's just using it for barbecues and to be with family. Good, so I'm going to pass over to Tish here to introduce some of the first design elements for those different spaces.
Great, thank you, Mish. Hello, everyone. So, Mish, could you just? I'll signal when. Can you click the pages, because I haven't got.
Sure. Yeah.
So we're going to start off with the south garden. So we've just sort of divided the garden spaces just because it seemed to make a bit of sense, and we can distinguish between the different spaces. And I think understanding the orientation of the gardens also helps to start to understand why some of the gardens get more light than, or more sunshine than others, and what we can do to actually to help bring more light and sunshine into these spaces. So the first garden I'm going to look at is the south garden, and you can see the sort of space that we're talking about. You can see at the bottom of the plan there. You've got this red line sort of roughly indicating that space. And on the right hand side of the page here, these are just little checks of the different functions that we're specifically starting to look at within each of these garden spaces. So again, how can we make the garden more welcoming? How can we make the gardens more functional? So that extension of your home. And how can we make the gardens more accessible? So changing the way we move through the space. So we can click down this. Thanks. So this is just a little reminder of the actual space. If you're not familiar, if you perhaps don't look over that box hedging, you've got these two planters to the side of the building, and you can see as you look through the space that you've got a couple more flower beds, but also that sort of far end of the garden sort of backs on to, I think we distinguished that these are going to be sort of bedsit flats or single bed flats. So if we click down, so this is a plan or a map that I've taken, and I've actually changed. If you can see here, probably the plan itself, you'll be like, those look like very large balconies. Well, this is the proposal that the architects have done. So I wanted to bring that, or start to introduce the retrofit into the or the refurbishment into the plan, so you could start to see that now, what the garden space would look like with these new refurbishments. And the first thing to look at is that you can see that this garden is accessed by anybody who obviously doesn't have access through their own property from the garden, from the far end. So again, on the right hand side, but you've got this balcony that is going to protrude out of the building because the balconies are being extended. So that access to the garden now is really going to be very redundant. So the ideas that we were thinking of was to actually create a new entrance into this garden space as an option. It's again for you guys to give us some feedback, and maybe that we can somehow level off the ground, or we can change the surface of the ground in the area around the planters. We did have feedback that probably the planters were put in by residents who sort of lived in this vicinity, and therefore they had access to it, but maybe they've moved away, and this is why those planters look so redundant. So maybe we could create a nice seating area. Perhaps there's a bench put there, and maybe we could plant some herbs or just some really nice flowers, so it becomes a sort of an accessible garden, but just by changing the flooring maybe, and having it so it's not the whole garden, it's a smaller area that doesn't really necessarily intrude on anyone's private residence. Also on the far side as well, you've got trees that run along the boundary of pretty much the whole of the Treadgold demise. And the trees here, this is actually the south facing garden, so it does potentially have quite a lot of sunlight throughout the day. So to maybe refresh these flower beds with, again, some perhaps more flowering plants, pollinating plants, helping bees and wildlife. And if we can maybe, I certainly think that the tree on the far right hand side needs to be removed, because it will just end up actually growing into the balconies. But maybe the other trees can be really pruned back quite a lot, so it does allow more sunlight into the space, simply just to allow better growth for sort of ornamental plants. So it just makes it a nicer garden for residents who live on this side of the building, to actually look out of their windows and their balconies. So this is just a little visual that we're starting to come up with. So I think that something that we're very keen about is that I think we mentioned before, we're not sort of advocates of moving trees, and I know that councils are very reluctant to move trees, or remove trees. But I think if we could, a couple of things, if we could actually repurpose the wood. So I was thinking, if we had a bench or something, could we use the tree trunk that we actually cut down to make that seating? So we actually find a function for the wood. And perhaps if we remove the trees, we could actually replace them with smaller trees, that something like fruit trees might be quite nice, which they're sort of, you can get species that don't grow so big that they're going to intrude on people's balconies or stop so much light. Again, I think we saw this slide last time, but just gives you a little taster of the different types of plants that we could potentially use. Obviously, the planting that we'd suggest putting in would be perennials, and they would be relatively low maintenance as well. So if people weren't inclined to do any gardening, it still means that there would be nice plants and colour throughout the year. Excuse me. So this is now, actually, before I go on, does anyone have any comments about that garden? I know that we've sort of discussed it before, but if anyone's got any feedback from perhaps any of these suggestions, it might be better if we go through each part, so each garden, and they maybe get feedback.
Yes. Hi, I'm Maria.
Hi, Maria.
I would like to, well, suggest something about the south garden. You were saying about putting up flower beds or vegetable and replacing the tree with fruit trees, lower trees, right?
Potentially, it's an option we're just suggesting. Yes.
Yeah, and I really don't understand about these trees that are growing. I mean, the tree that's existing at the moment. Is it because there's not enough sunlight or something that?
Which tree are you?
The one in the south garden. We're still in the south garden, right?
Yeah, there's. You can see the trees. Mish, can you run your cursor over the trees?
You won't see my cursor, I think.
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah. So you've got 3 trees, sort of a long running. Well, actually, you've got 4. So you've got the big one. You've got these 2, and then there's a little circle at the end, which I've just removed. That's the tree that I would suggest needs to go, purely because of the refurbishment of the building. So there's sort of 4 trees along that side. Are you referring to a specific tree, Maria?
No, I have been passing through that area, but I don't think the trees, keep away sunlight. I just don't know how. I've always been passing through that, and I always see the houses, they even put down their curtains or something because the sunlight goes into their flats. So I don't understand about cutting down those trees. Now, putting back maybe shorter trees, that will not be hampering the flats, but they're far away from the flats, isn't it? They're not located right beside the flats. So I don't see anything that's hampering.
Yeah, it would mainly be this tree on the right-hand side, which is not fully on here. But yeah, this is a suggestion, and it's good to hear that to you it doesn't feel like that's necessary. These balconies, they will come out quite a bit further than they are at the moment after the refurb. So,
but it's not going to touch the trees, right? I mean,
that could be an issue, that some of the trees will hang into the balconies. Yeah.
Yeah, is that wide? It's really that big. So it's going to occupy like the whole garden in front of them. Is that the idea?
I don't think they're only there. We'd need Lizzie or Hagel. I'm not sure if they're actually on the call at the moment to tell us exactly how far they go out, but they do extend out further than they are as existing, and I think it's not that the trees are sort of. I think this one on the right hand side. I think there would definitely need to be a survey done on this, but from the plan that I've drawn up and from the measurements I've taken, it does seem very close. That's not to say that the architects who are in charge of this project would do that. It's just looking at it, you can see it's quite close. I don't think the other trees at all would inhibit the actual balconies themselves. I think it's more about the feedback that we've had that the trees generally around the Treadgold House do stop some sunlight, and I think it's we're asking if that, and you're giving us great feedback because you're saying actually I don't think it does, so it's very valuable what you're saying to us.
That's my personal view, but a lot of the other residents who I also am representing, well, have the same idea. They are really, of course, not all of them live in that area, but at least they see it as they come by, and I mean, from the pavement, we can check it. There's shrubs are surrounding it, right? All around it. And then the tree come out after them, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Maybe we could ask if anyone else has got anything they'd like to comment about, if they think that Maria's onto saying that actually the trees are not causing a problem, because that would be our preference.
I know the residents are living there on the first, the second, I mean, counting it from the right hand where I am, the first, second flat, the third, and then the fifth and the sixth. There are residents living there, but I've spoken to two of them there, and they say anything that I can contribute, they will be willing to support me. So I really I've spoken to them, and they say whatever is supposed to be done, then it's supposed to be done. But I said those are just suggestions to us, and it is our decision, isn't it? Is that the correct thing? It's not what you are proposing, it's what we would like the garden. I mean,
it's very much about getting your feedback, and our role, as Michel mentioned at the beginning, is to write this up and make suggestions and then give that to the architect. So certainly the decisions that are made are very much based on your feedback. But it would be good to hear if anyone else has got anything to say about the specific sort of southern garden.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, Pat. Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, you can. Okay. That tree that you're talking about, is it the one near the entrance?
Yeah.
Like the entrance into the flats?
So that's the entrance. That's the going into the car park, that grey bit. And then this is the gate that you go into that garden from the
Sorry.
From the street.
I mean, from the other end, obviously there's lots of space, isn't there? From the flower bed to the actual flats. These balconies that you're showing, that's from the first floor, isn't it?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
They've got like they follow the same. I believe anyway. They follow the same line as they come down the first. So the ground floor they have enclosed. So they have a glass facade, so it's like an indoor garden area, right. and then the balconies then continue upwards, but they're all open.
Yeah.
So they're
Yeah. Well, so I mean that one that you're talking about, it is quite near to that flat there on the first flat in
the corner. Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a shame that the architects weren't able to join us today, because this is they haven't given us any indication of what landscaping they're having to do because of the refit. So this,
Yeah.
this area may change from what I've drawn it to be, because they've already considered that they're going to have to move that gate anyway. I think they will probably have to, I don't know if you can see these stairs on the top of the page here, and then that actually makes it really narrow for them to drive in. So I don't know. They're obviously thinking they're going to have to do some sort of landscaping to adapt for the new refit anyway, but I haven't spoken to them about it, so I don't want to open up a can of worms with that. So I think it's just to understand that that the actual that space changes and it becomes a little bit smaller because of the new balconies that are going to be coming outwards.
Right, Maria.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Are you Pat?
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not on this front bit there, though, are you?
I am. I'm on the side.
You're around the side.
Yes.
Yes, you're underneath me, right down the bottom, aren't you?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Just making sure.
Oh,
I don't know. I mean, these people, that live in them bottom ones, they should, interact, shouldn't they, with these meetings? Because that bit is mainly down to them. It doesn't really affect me or Maria, if you know what I mean.
I've spoken with the two of them. One is on number two. It's a new family. No, not really a new one. They just come back.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, I think they've just not long moved in. Yeah.
And the first one, hardly anybody, I see around there. I'm not sure. I know it's occupied, but I'm not sure.
There is people in there.
Number 3 as well is occupied, and number 4 is not. And 5 and 6, yes, I got to speak with them.
Yeah. Well, what can I say?
Yeah.
Can't really say too much on here. It's a shame we just can't have a meeting together about down there.
Like, I think if any of those trees would be removed, there would still be a process involved in that, because you can't just remove trees for no particular reason.
No, obviously, yeah.
So, but what we were saying also is that it's possible that because of the refurb, this tree might need to be removed.
Yeah, because that balcony is going to come out and it's going to hit it, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's possible. And we said, well, these other trees could potentially, if the sun is a problem to people, if there's the shade rather is a problem to people, then these trees could be pruned back a little bit.
Yeah.
And we could even, there could even be an option of adding a couple of smaller trees in there to make up also for what's been lost. So just to say, like, it's not it not being on this plan is not a decision that it's being removed.
No.
Yeah.
But what do you think about having an access point that's in a different space down at the bottom?
You mean rather than take the gate away that's already there?
Yeah, and potentially put it from the street. there's
the way I understand it, may I interrupt?
Yeah.
Each flat has its own exit to the garden adjacent to them. So I don't know why there are gates around the area, which is again a problem, because anybody can just go in and out, or jump in and out.
Well, they're not meant to. I mean, the gates, that one gate is only one gate there anyway. And when I did used to do, when I did used to do the tenants association, it was kept locked. They always knew that I had a key. The only reason that people, used that gate was to get furniture in and out, It was more to keep, I don't know, the drunks out, the whatever, which is why there were benches there, but then people were sleeping on them. So you don't, I know I can see where you're going to say you're going to put the gate. I think be one or two maybe will disagree with that, but they should be on here disagreeing with it, shouldn't they? It's not down to me to disagree with it.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing from this is that actually the gate that was originally there, so where it's on the far end, is
Yeah.
actually just an accessible gate to get sort of furniture in, or potentially it could be a fire gate or something like that. But
Yes.
it's not a functional gate that people would use sort of like on a weekend or in the afternoon or summer evening. People would just come out of their flats on the ground
They
floor.
used to, but
Mm.
since we've not had a tenants association as such. I can't say. Well, I don't know. I'll have to tell one of the our representatives over there, because the way that you're going to put that gate is going to cause some problems. Put it that way.
Okay, that's really good feedback to hear, because as I said, we're just giving suggestions, and sometimes the feedback is that doesn't work, which is as valuable as saying it does work, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think we better, because yeah. I think the other gate is more where it is more sensible in the respect of what can I say? If anyone breaking in or whatever on the ground floors, that's what I mean. Because there's open balconies round the back there. Maria, you're round that back, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, and that gives access to the balconies along there, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but the balconies are presumed to be closed and added to the flat, and there will be an additional part where they're going to build additional balconies, and that would be a closed balcony according to each resident, how they would like it. So I guess there will be no access except through that balcony again. But if it's a closed balcony, then probably it will be safer. Not like now that it's an open balcony.
Yeah, but you see where that red arrow is, and if you follow it along, that little bit of land there's windows there on the ground floor.
Right.
So that gate would make that more accessible to that, is what I'm saying. I'm just thinking of people that live around here.
Do you have a code to come into the main gate to the car park?
A code?
No, we have fobs to get in.
Okay, because that could be, of course, also added here to this gate.
Maybe, yeah, would be a good idea.
And it would be locked, and just accessible to residents. Yeah. Good. So, shall we go to the North Garden, Tish?
Yeah, let's carry on. So if we
It's really good to hear your thoughts on this.
No, that's the communal garden then.
Yeah.
So the next garden we're going to talk about is the North Garden. So I guess this is the sort of communal garden. I know that we just briefly touched on the South Garden, and we'll touch on the West Garden as well. But I think that for the sort of communal space, this is the main area which all residents in the block or the house have access to. And again, we're just going to go through these same points as how can we make the gardens more welcoming? How can we make the garden more functional, so there's an extension to your home, and how can we make the garden more accessible, so changing the way we move around the space. So I've done a couple of options for this garden. So this is just a refresh, a little reminder of the space, and I'm hoping it was looking a little bit brighter now because it's spring, and this was taken on a very cold wintry day, so let's hope it's looking a bit better anyway. So this is the first sort of I've called it as an example because I don't want to set anything in stone, because again the suggestions that we sort of put forwards are very much just ideas to get your feedback. So again, the feedback from the very beginning, the first webinar we did was about that no one really sat in the space because the trees do stop a lot of sunlight, and it is a north facing garden anyway, so you're going to get quite a lot of shadow from the building itself due to the orientation of the space. and you're really only going to get sunlight in the afternoon and evenings anyway. But then you've got the additional trees in the space, which you can start to understand why, you know, it is there isn't that much sort of sunlight in the garden.
Yeah.
So again, we've got this sort of idea of how do we sort of help bring more light into the space. So there's the two options of, do we remove some of the trees, and if not, then shall we prune them back quite a lot so they don't grow any bigger, but it also allows that sunlight to reach the garden. So that's sort of the first one, and the little white dots that you can see on the plan are my attempt of little tree stumps. So you can see there's
I've always a golf course.
Could be a golf course. If you want it to be a golf course. So these little white dots. So you've got your 4 main trees in the space, and then you've got all your sort of shrubs and bushes around the border. You also have trees that are outside of the space as well. So you've got quite a big tree at the back here. You've actually got another tree here. Some of these shrubs are quite tall as well, and then you've got a couple of trees down on the far sort of west side. So some of these shrubs as well could be reduced, and I think we sort of suggested, I think that some of the feedback that we've had is that, you know, people want to be able to use this space to enjoy this space, so it's got to be a pleasant place to be in, and by adding perhaps some more colorful plants, creating plants with sort of pace and different types of structure, so you've got very sort of round cut shrubs on that far bank, but maybe you can introduce some more sort of like spiky plants, and you could change the sort of the pace of the beds. That could be just bring some interest into it. We also spoke about, I'm really sorry, I'm getting a very snuffly nose. Something's
yeah, I can hear it. As long as it's not COVID and you're passing it on.
No, I think I've got a screen in front of me. I think you're all
So
the other suggestion that we've made is to actually, so we've got this, we'll improve the shrubs that are going along the north side of the garden, but you've got this box hedge that runs between the car park and the actual garden, and it does make it feel very enclosed. It does make it feel quite like there's a strong boundary between the garden space and the car park, and I can understand why people do that. But the problem is because you've got all this canopy going across the top and there's not much light coming into the space, it does make it very dark. So what we're suggesting is that we remove the box hedging, lighten it up a little bit, and again put some ornamental plants that have a bit of color, a bit of texture, a bit of pace to them along this sort of bank. And maybe it's not so hard lined. You know, you've got very a lot of brick, you've got a lot of concrete, especially up in the city. Can we soften the edges of the borders a little bit and reflect what's happening on the other side of the garden if the actual borders are curvy? So maybe we could reflect that. And then this other idea is that we actually then put some hard paving or hard sort of texture down, pathways down, which start to sort of create more accessibility into the space. So you've got these picnic benches and they're on the grass, so it's very difficult to maybe wheel a pushchair, or if anybody's in a wheelchair, or if an elderly person's walking to it. So it makes that picnic bench a little bit more accessible. There's a bench, again, making it easier to get to. And then at the far end here, if we're removing a tree, perhaps we can add a tree seat. So there's an image of one of these in a minute. So there's different things we could sort of play with in creating more accessibility to the space. And then that leaves a sort of play area at the far end here. So it's sort of seen this sort of the more west side of the garden as being your picnic area, your seating area, if you wanted to relax, read a book, or have a cup of tea with a friend. And then you've got the far end, so you're further away from the building, where you can maybe create some sort of play area. We spoke about having some sort of goalposts or sort of play structure that the children could potentially play in, and have that area up at the end. So I think it would create just leave some area for that. We didn't want to specifically state what that would be, because again, that's sort of moving into where the architects would start to design that part of it. So there's just a couple of little visuals of what the space could look like if we did start to take some of the trees down. So this is a little stump with this little kid standing on it. So she's turned it into a play item anyway. And again, this is another tree here. Maybe this could have a function where it could turn into something. It could be part of a play structure, potentially. There's some fun things I was looking up. You could turn a tree trunk and have a slide off it, or turn it into some sort of play element. And again,
can I just ask, while you're on that bit, you've got fencing along there. Would you put fencing up?
There's actually fencing along there anyway.
Oh, was the fencing there?
The fencing is
yeah,
there.
of course
So
it is. Yeah.
I did think about, shall we take the fencing away? But if you've got kids playing in that area and
No.
the ball around, certainly keep them there, so it keeps them.
Yeah, we need to lock them in.
Yeah, exactly. But you can see, just in the sketch, you can start to see how softer it becomes.
It's lovely.
The little railing, you take that box hedge away, you let a little bit more light in, and then you put more shrubs, sort of a real array of different. It's not just saying that the same plant all the way through. You sort of vary it and create more diversity.
And again, you could put some larger shrubs in here as well, or some small trees you could put in as well, again, to make up for what some of the trees that have been lost.
No, don't want no more trees.
We feel bad.
I've got enough of that big one outside my window.
We'll get to that one.
Yeah, it's obviously got to stay there, but it do need. I just wish they'd come and keep cutting it back. Takes out so much light.
Hedges and fence are very important there to keep, to keep some privacy as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is just looking down the garden. So this is the other visual, is looking up the gardens. This is looking back down the garden. And then, so there's another option of maybe taking the pathway all the way around the garden. So if we just flick now down to the next, so this is a second option of the same space, a little bit more developed, and that perhaps instead of just having a pathway going along the southern part of the garden, maybe there's a pathway that goes all the way around the back edge of the garden as well, and you could have some seating, your benches on those, so anybody from everybody can access that seating, and they don't have to walk on the grass. And then the difference with this space mainly is that we've pulled away 2 of the car parking spaces and put this, we mentioned about a potting shed or a greenhouse where people could potentially grow little seedlings, or if they wanted to have ornamental plants on their balconies. It could be this space that residents can use to help grow little seedlings or plants, and maybe it's a way of creating an interaction between residents. Perhaps it could become a little bit of a social area. Maybe that area itself isn't used so much as a functioning space. It could be where the gardener keeps his stuff as well. So there's different ways that space could be used. We were just, again, putting it forward to see what people's thoughts were.
Well, the only thing go on, sorry, Maria, carry on.
Would that space be available for the greenhouse, a small one? No?
Yeah, so the idea is that we take out 2 of the car parking spaces. So there's 13 car parking spaces in all, and we take 2 of them away. So there'd be 11 car parking spaces, and then we fence that area off. So you can see here in the visual, you'd have a gate coming into it, and then there'd be a little greenhouse here. Maybe you've got like a little growing beds on the side, or storage, or however we could go more into the detail of what that could be, if the feedback is quite positive to sort of suggest those changes.
It looks lovely, but you need to sort of ask the council, or Lanquest, how many people have got bays down there. If you're taking 2 away, I don't know how they're going to do that.
Yeah.
I haven't got a car, so it doesn't bother me. But if you're taking two away and they are all you know, all taken, I
Yeah.
don't know whether they would stand for that.
You have to make sure that all residents who are living there have their space. I mean, those who own cars.
Yeah,
Because some of them who have two cars, they usually park the other one outside.
Right.
yeah.
To occupy one space.
No, that's what I'm saying. As long as they check that, you know, that all the ones that are down there, someone's in them. I don't know who you say who to give, you know, to give them two up to. Is what I mean.
Yeah. Totally understandable.
Because it'll create Mary Hill otherwise, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And then moving on to the last part of this, which thought we'd bring it up. I think we mentioned about your storage area that you have,
Yeah.
brick building, and maybe we were thinking about how we could. It's a bit run down. Maybe the architects will do something, make it a little bit nicer. But what we thought was how we could create this space by getting residents actually involved in helping. Maybe make a mural. It could be painted, or we've worked with. There's a great company down in South London called Arts for Space. I'm actually working with them at the moment, and they actually create. They do workshops, design workshops, where they invite children and the residents of a particular area or a block of flats like you live in, and you come up with this design, and then you actually make the mural itself, and then you put that into the walls.
Not graffiti.
Yeah.
Hopefully not graffiti, I said.
No.
No.
Like the picture here in the middle, mosaic. That's one we've done before on a.
That's lovely.
Yeah,
Children.
I'm doing one at the moment where there's an old air raid shelter it's like a brick bunker in a South London estate, and again we're running. The kids from the estate have come and actually helped make the mosaics, and they're actually being put onto this bunker that's to make it nicer. So again, it's just a thought of a way of it helping improve, but also an engaging piece where people could maybe actually meet each other and could walk past it every day and know that they actually had a hand in creating something within that communal space.
Yeah, it looks nice.
Good. So yeah, so those are, again, as we say, suggestions for that space, rather than anything set in stone. And maybe it's good just briefly, I'm very aware of time and we have a little bit of other things to get through, but you sounded positive on this idea. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. As I say, you know, if people can't be bothered to come on here or whatever, well, they get what me and Maria say they get.
Yeah.
But no, it looks all I'm just saying is about the cars. You have to make sure that the whole lot of them are not taken by people. For you to take two of them away. That's the only problem I can find there.
I think they're all occupied.
Sorry, Maria? What did you say?
I don't think they're all occupied. They're always, well, every day I see, and maximum about 7 maybe.
Okay.
Or maybe 10 parked there. There are, I think, 14 or 13 bays.
Well, the TMO would know it, or like Lanquest would know, because they give out the you know the park. You have to have a permit to park down there.
Yeah, if it's not data protection information.
Yeah.
I'm sick of that.
I'm sure they would tell you how many permits are meant to be down there. Put it that way.
Well, maybe to these people, I mean the landscape people, yes, or the architects, but to us residents, I doubt it.
Yeah, they would tell us. I bet if I rang up, I'm only asking the question, aren't we? how
Good
many?
luck, good luck to you, Mo. I mean, Mo, not Mo, Pat, sorry.
So I'd like to briefly come to the West Garden and also the balconies before we wrap up. So
Right.
so this is the West Garden. I think both of you are familiar with this space. Is that right? That both of you?
Yeah, that's where you are, Maria. Yes, down there.
No, I'm on the other end. I'm not
Okay,
here
on the
at
other
the
end.
front. This is the front part, right?
Yeah,
I'm at the other end.
Yeah,
you're at the other end. Yeah. Well, I'm at the other end, up the top.
but higher up. Yeah, yeah. So this is a space, obviously, just like the South Garden by Beaumont Road, that is relatively private, because if people would start using it, you know, they would be just outside other people's kitchens or living rooms.
Yeah,
So
that wouldn't be feasible.
yeah, it would not really work to make this a more communal area. So in that sense, we're not necessarily suggesting much changes here, but just taking on board what Pat, you said, and Maria, I'm not 100% sure what's your stance to that, but the balconies here will also be extended. So some of these trees could again become more of a problem than they are at the moment, because they're reaching a bit further into the
No, there is a tree at the corner, but it's right beside the hedges, you know, the fence. So I don't think it will even reach. Unless
I
you're talking
think
about,
maybe a lot of them are even outside on my corner here.
yeah,
They're not even on our land. if
exactly.
that's,
Yeah,
wait a minute, I'm going to have a look.
So it would just be,
Maybe the roots are, but it extends outside, you know, it's not.
yeah. So it would just be a matter of maintaining them a little bit more and pruning
Yeah,
them back a bit.
they're just
If it becomes-
overgrown.
Mm.
Yeah,
if it is a problem to residents.
yeah,
Some residents like the hedges higher for privacy, for more
Yeah.
privacy. That's the only thing I would say about the hedges.
Sure, I think they should probably stay. And then the other thing that could be done here is to add a little bit of more colorful planting into that space.
Oh, yes, plants, fruit trees, I mean, vegetable, that's
Okay,
the
I'm
plan.
already
But
excited.
it needs leveling up again. It's not
Okay.
as smooth as.
There's, of course, if you're saying fruit trees and vegetables, there's maybe a little bit less sun in this area. So there might be the evening sun, if I'm right, is what you're
Yeah.
getting.
we get it all the afternoon.
Okay, afternoon and evening sun, yeah.
Mm.
So that's options. Those are things that can be done using the plant, as we said before, with some herbs and something that's useful to residents. And as Maria says, some leveling up here would be quite good.
Yeah, definitely. It's not very nice around the back there.
Another
But then-
is to get access to the garden adjacent to the flat, because you can have an exit there and you can close it up after. That's.
Well, we
that's
did try it. I don't know, maybe these people might be able to get on board with that, you know, because people down there have to climb over to get into the garden, wouldn't you?
Oh, but there are some flats, they knocked off there.
Yeah, I think they've done it
So they can
themselves.
get into the garden. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a waste of, I really don't understand why you can't, get access to the garden adjacent to your flat. Of course, well, they say it's risky because it's not level, it's not this, so might as well level it up and make it safe for the residents, right?
yeah.
That's good to take on board.
I did try. I've tried years ago because all of them down there wanted their own little garden. But it was the access because they had to climb over, and I just couldn't get a pot of money that would be sufficient to, make the balcony into an open balcony, if you know what I mean.
Is the gate here
I
not?
mean, you can have it a closed balcony, but I mean, what I mean is that you can go out from your balcony and, lock yourself in as well. So you're the only one who will have access to that.
Mm.
That's the only thing. And besides, we're only 4 who are sharing that in the ground floor.
Yeah, yeah. And is this gate not accessible?
That
Which
gate
gate?
that you want to put there.
No.
What gate?
Is that
Oh,
not-
you mean the one from the communal garden?
Yeah.
No,
You
it's
can.
for lock and key,
Okay. Yeah. Okay, but it's interesting.
And
So
I've just
that's
reported that
interesting.
somebody snapped off just yesterday. And I had to ring because it was, anybody can just go in and, do something at our balconies. So
Exactly.
we fixed it up
See,
already. And
there's
I reported.
security all the time,
Exactly, it's security also, and the
Yes,
risk that
definitely.
we have to take. But well, luckily they solved the problem right there and then yesterday as well. So
Yeah.
at the moment, there's the lock and key and the chain that was
Mm.
snipped or cut off by, I don't know what kind of instrument they use, but
Bolt cutters to do that.
oh, well, maybe that's the one that I saw this person using it, and
Yeah.
I don't know if he was I couldn't catch up with the person because I wanted to see where he was living, but I think he jumped off the other fence,
All right.
So I
So,
believe that as part of the refurb, the idea is that the ground floor flats will be, the balcony will be have a glass front, but there will be then to make up for the lost outdoor space in terms of the balcony, there'll be a door to go outside. So
would this mean that the other floors would have the same balconies?
the other floors the floors above will have balconies, but an outdoor
Okay.
space, not a glass.
Okay, yeah, right. And
Yeah.
it's because of the roof. I'm scared because there are some people who are just so responsible or irresponsible who just throw their cigarette butts or whatever and feed
Yeah.
pigeons from up there.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
They've been
anything
told.
or anything that's live could always cause a fire
Yeah.
on the glass. So that's the main thing. But
It-
since it's going to be covered and it's going to have a roof and all that, so I guess it will be safer.
It
Yeah.
will help, I think, with that. Yeah. So I'm aware that we're slightly over time, and I'd like to briefly just this is not a big part, but mention the balconies. Is everyone okay to go 5 minutes more?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
If you're willing to.
Good. I'm willing to. I'm also asking you and the Lancaster.
Yeah, I'm fine. If I'm going to see my balcony, yeah.
All good, yeah.
So just again, we're looking at the balcony and we're asking similar questions. So how can you use how can your balcony be functional to you? And how can we make up for some of the issues that you've had with your balcony, like the pigeons? And here's some suggestions that we've brought to you before, at least most
Yeah.
of them. And the idea would be that you receive a type of menu,
Yeah.
a list of fixings or options that you can choose from. And of course, you can choose none of them, or just one of them, or also a few of them.
Right.
And those options for the balconies, and there'll be options, for Maria's flat, which is downstairs. There's not really a balcony, but you could still have a planter. So some of the options would be hanging plants, that you have fixings where you can attach pots to with hanging plants. The other option is to have planters. So they can be hung on the railings. And then one option, what we talked about, is this sort of non-intrusive sort of pigeon netting.
Yeah, definitely. Hands up to that. I'll have that.
Yeah, great. So that seems important. And if the pigeon netting and the planter could be used together with climbing plants, for example, if you wanted
Yeah.
to create privacy on one side or shade on one side, then that's something that could be done as well.
Yeah, lovely.
Of course, our adjoining neighbors, I mean, they would also want a bit of privacy. So maybe that end part, which separates you from your next door neighbor, would possibly have, you can possibly put something there.
Exactly, that's the idea, so that you can sit on your balcony because they're larger, so you can actually have a chair and a small table there.
Yeah, lovely.
And you can
Do you supply them as well?
Like a lounging thing
I think that's not a part of the menu,
for the
but
summer.
you can suggest it.
You never know. You never know. We might get a pot of
Exactly.
money for that as well.
Yeah. And then of course a bike rack, you know, or bike hangers, that's something for people.
Yeah, with
And then-
bikes.
Well,
And
I
maybe-
requested bike hangers, I mean, you know, where they can park downstairs, but that's been ages. I mean, I wasn't still in the building when that was already requested. I hope they listen to us this time, because
Yeah.
there are so many illegal bicycles and motorbikes parking
Yeah.
in the communal garden, which
Okay.
I
They
have
do.
reported to the police as well.
It's
Yes.
where they nick them and then they hide them there. That's what they're doing.
Well, but that's not supposed to be, so
No.
This
as
could
I
be a way
said,
of saying,
Big Brother's watching or Big Sister's watching, so
yeah.
it's been reported. I just don't know if something's going to be done about it.
Yeah.
I requested those bike hangers. There are several buildings that have them. They even have more than one. So maybe one or two for Treadgold would do.
So that's
Yeah.
a suggestion. And then finally, what a lot of councils actually start providing now is these smaller bokashi compost systems for your food scraps. They don't smell and they small. They can be on balconies quite easily. So that could be a way of turning your food scraps into soil for your plants on your
Yeah, I'm up for anything. I'll have the lot.
on your balcony. Great. So
Yeah.
hopefully that menu will come to be and you can tick all 5 boxes.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
Good.
Can't wait. Do you
About
know
the-
when all this is starting?
It's a shame we don't have the architects on the call, but I believe it's still going to take a while before, because they're still going through some consultations and this detail designing themselves. So
Yeah,
this
but with
will-
whom? I suppose
Yeah.
you're supposed to do that with the residents, isn't it?
Yeah, I can jump in there. So this is going to be part of the wider kind of refurbishment of Treadgold. So there's going to be a lot more engagement on the actual kind of major refurb of the block itself. Any of this stuff kind of comes to fruition. So it'll be over kind of the next couple of years when things actually get delivered. But for Treadgold, everything it's going to be delivered by, well, the actual refurbishment is by October next year, so 2022, as part of the Must Be Zero funding that's already been spoken about in other webinars.
So you mean
Yeah, so we're going first, aren't we?
Yeah, ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
yeah, but that would be October next year?
No.
Yeah, so finishing off.
No.
Or finishing or starting when? That's the
No.
most
So
important thing for us. When is it starting?
So actual works will start once the next stages of engagement have come through and we've got an idea of design ideas.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm anxious to get to meet the designers and the architects, because it's it's so important for me that my flat get to be fixed.
Good. So I'd like to, I know that we're a little bit over time, and just want to say thank you so much to Maria and Pat for joining us for all of these webinars, and
You're welcome.
also
You're very welcome.
yeah, inviting other people to come. It's a shame they didn't make it. And yeah, thank you to the Lancaster West team.
Anyway, I always give them an update, so they'll start
Yeah.
calling me or I start calling them to give them the pertinent upgrade. But update. But if you have this, bits and pieces in paper copies that I could, pass around, that would be fine. I mean,
Okay.
about what you have just told us about, like the recap, the learnings from previous meetings, introducing and all these things that we've mentioned about the north, south, and the west garden.
Yeah. Okay, we will discuss that with.
Here,
Yes,
on my thing that's come through today, it said free pot plant for the first 6 who log on. So are we getting a pot plant?
Yeah, we'll be able to arrange that if drop
I do
my-
love a plant, so
Yeah, don't we all?
yes.
Yeah, if you drop me or Linda a message, then we'll be able to sort that out for you.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Not
Okay,
everybody,
thanks.
not everybody in our building are accessible to the internet or whatever.
No, that's true.
So that's the reason why.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we we can arrange to get all this stuff printed out and hand it out to people as well. So anyone that wasn't able to join today will be able to get involved and give their feedback as well. Also, obviously, this is going to be going on our YouTube channel and on that app. So Linda can share it with the Treadgold group. So anyone who is online but just wasn't able to join today will be able to watch it back on there as well.
Yeah.
Mind you, when everything opens up in June, I mean, can we go back to having proper meetings in a hall then? Or would we be allowed?
I think so, yeah. Hopefully we'll be able to, start doing stuff face to face rather than through a screen. Actually make it a bit easier to talk to each other.
Well, yeah. Well, it's better for other people that, as I say, can't get online,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's always a struggle at the moment because obviously this sort of thing doesn't work for everybody. So hopefully soon enough we'll be able to go back to normal.
Okay,
And we're
lovely.
very grateful as well that you've transferred the time to 7 o'clock. At least maybe later on there'll be more people attending the meetings personally from work.
Yeah.
So we're grateful about that, the change of schedule. I mean the time schedule.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So thank you very much, and Hannah,
Okay.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Pat and Maria, for all your comments. It's been really helpful. I'm sure on the newsletter mailing list already, but if not, then this is how to join. But yeah, thank you for taking the time to give your feedback to us today.
Okay, lovely. All right, thank you very much.
See you soon. Thanks. Bye.
Well,
Thank you, Maria.
Bye.
bye.
Bye bye.
Pat, where do you live?